I'm James Ezimoha. Welcome to Africa News, where we bring you the latest updates from across the African continent. Let's see your headlines. African Union representatives arrive in South Sudan's capital to defuse mounting tensions. Garment workers in Lesotho face uncertain futures following U.S. import tariff. Rwanda hosts its first national AI summit in Kigali. Thank you for joining us. African Union representatives arrived in South Sudan's capital on Wednesday, aiming to defuse mounting tensions. This is after Vice President Riek Machar was placed under house arrest last week. The situation has deteriorated following clashes in the northern Upper Nile state between the military and the White Army militia linked to Machar. The African Union's Peace and Security Council has called for Machar's immediate and unconditional release, warning that recent events jeopardize the 2018 peace agreement. A white-only town in South Africa is calling on the U.S. President Donald Trump for support to become a state. Residents of Orania in the Northern Cape province say they want help, not to flee, but to strengthen the Afrikaner enclave.
In South Africa's semi-arid Karoo region, with a population of 3,000 people, the town of Orania has long stood apart. Located along the Orange River, it was founded in 1991 with just 300 people and was created as a homeland exclusively for white Christian Afrikaners. But the town now wants international support, specifically from US President Donald Trump, to become a state. It's after Trump offered white South Africans refugee status and resettlement in the United States. However, officials in Orania say they want help to build a future rooted in their culture.
We are glad of the fact that there's more attention in regards to expropriation without compensation. We are glad that we are recognized as a people, but we don't want to be refugees in another man's land. We are thankful for the offer. We're not slapping away an extended hand, but what we are saying is we want to build here. If whomever is interested in helping create Orania's future, we think investment is a good opportunity. Our message to the American government was help us here, 3-word response. It was not to say help us here by giving us American tax dollars so that we can just, do whatever.
Meanwhile, political analysts say Orania's recent public statements reveal more hardline views.
I think for a long time Orania and people around that kind of politics have been relatively careful about how they portray themselves. And they have made a big effort to go, we're just living peaceably side by side with our neighbors of other colors. We choose to only be white people, but that's okay because this is our space and we will live in this way. And what's happened now, I think, has emboldened them slightly more to go, no, well, actually, we would like apartheid back, please.
Orania's call for outside support has reignited debate about race, land, and identity in South Africa. While the town claims it wants self-determination, critics say its vision risks reopening deep wounds of the apartheid era.
South Africa says it will not impose countermeasures after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a steep 31% tariff on imports from the country. Instead, Pretoria is turning to negotiations while warning of job losses and disrupted exports.
Don't waste any time.
South Africa is holding off on any retaliation against the United States following a new 31% tariff imposed by President Donald Trump this week. The hike forms part of broader trade restrictions that include a 10% baseline tariff on all US imports and higher duties on dozens of countries. South African officials say the new measures threaten key sectors like automotive, agriculture, and manufacturing. They also warned that Trump's action effectively ends the benefits granted under the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, a US trade deal giving duty-free access to African exports, now unlikely to be renewed past its September expiry.
The reciprocal tariffs effectively nullify the preference that sub-Saharan Africa countries enjoy under the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, well known as AGOA. The sweeping tariffs measures will affect several sectors of our economy, including automotive industry, agriculture, processed food and beverage, chemical, metals, and other segments of manufacturing, with implications for job and growth.
Context, taking an approach that says we will impose reciprocal tariffs. Firstly, without understanding how the US arrived at 31%, and then begin to respond without engaging with the US would be counterproductive. It also runs the risk of a race to the bottom because everybody in the world is making different decisions. There's all sorts of knee-jerk reactions to the announcements made. And I think it's a risky thing to do, to simply decide that, okay, we're now going to impose reciprocal tariffs and.
As South Africa weighs its next move, the government says it remains committed to dialogue. But with AGOA in jeopardy and critical sectors exposed, the stakes for South Africa's economy are higher than ever.
Thousands of garment workers in Lesotho face an uncertain future after United States President Donald Trump imposed a 50% tariff on imports. The new trade measure could devastate the country's textile industry, which is a major employer.
Lesotho's textile sector is reeling after the United States President Donald Trump imposed a 50% reciprocal tariff on its exports. For decades, the small southern African country has benefited from duty-free access to the American market, fueling an industry that employs more than 40,000 people. But with the tariff now in place, factory workers say staying competitive is nearly impossible.
We were supplying that market duty-free. So now with the 50% hike, it means it's impossible. Remember, we are competing with other countries worldwide. So it is impossible. And look at our lead time. We import raw material from China. We bring it here, and then we ship it to US. So that lead time also, plus the tariff hike that we have just got, it's going to be very much impossible for us to continue.
Meanwhile, economists warn the tariff could have a far wider impact on Lesotho's economy beyond the factories themselves.
A 50% reciprocal tariff introduced by the US government is going to kill textile and apparel sector in Lesotho because it is one of the major employer in Lesotho because we are having plus or minus 40,000 workers working there, direct jobs. We are talking about direct jobs, and we know that there are some indirect jobs, because if we can take a rough estimates that the textile workers are getting, each is getting 2,000 maloti per month. And then you multiply it by 40,000. So this says we are having plus or minus 80 million maloti in the circulation of the economy.
Meanwhile, Lesotho's trade minister says a delegation is being rushed to Washington in a last-minute bid to salvage the situation.
Rwanda has hosted its first national AI summit in Kigali, bringing together tech leaders, policymakers from across Africa. The event comes as the country faces heightened scrutiny over its involvement in Congo's ongoing conflict.
Tech developers, policymakers, and global innovators gathered in Kigali on Thursday for Rwanda's first artificial intelligence summit. The event aimed to highlight AI's potential in driving economic growth and solving development challenges in health, agriculture, and education. It comes at a time when Rwanda is under growing international pressure over its role in the conflict in eastern Congo, where the Rwandan-backed M23 rebel group continues its advance. Despite the tension, AI developers say building a common East African data ecosystem is key to making AI useful and safe for the continent.
We're engaging the government of Rwanda to have other stakeholders in other countries push for the necessity for this AI framework. The AI framework looks at things like ethics, it looks at the conduct, how shall we deal with AI, the ethics around AI, because it can be a dangerous tool in the wrong hands. We want to also look into factors that have to do with data sets, that we can create local silos of data in the East African region.
Innovators stress the need for language inclusion, especially for potential users in rural areas.
So if you think, how does a farmer in rural Rwanda access an AI engine to ask about information about market prices, to ask about pests and diseases, in order to do that, there's need for that particular technology to be in Kinyarwanda, because 76% of Rwandans don't speak any other foreign language like English and French. They only speak Kinyarwanda.
With plans for a Kigali-based research hub and growing investment in AI-driven public services, Rwanda is positioning itself as a regional leader in artificial intelligence, even as political tensions in the region remain unresolved.
A Nigerian superhero is breaking new ground on global TV. Iyanu, Child of Wonder, is an animated series rooted in Yoruba mythology, created by Roye Okupe as a cultural gift to his daughter and the world. Take a look.
I like that.
The new animated series, Iyanu, Child of Wonder, draws from the rich traditions of Nigeria's Yoruba culture, blending ancient mythology with modern storytelling. Created by Nigerian filmmaker Roye Okupe and illustrated by Godwin Akpan, the story follows a teenage orphan girl who discovers magical powers that could save her homeland. The creator says Iyanu is a love letter to his daughter and a celebration of African heritage.
Iyanu is also a love letter to my daughter, who is 4-year-old now. Before she was born, I had the thought in my head that if I eventually had a baby girl, what is a show that I would want to watch on TV that she could both be entertained by, but at the same time inspired by her heritage and her culture.
Voice actor Sam Kugbi says the project marks a breakthrough moment for African-led animation on the world stage.
Feels like something new is happening. And I know that representation has been coming on and it's been growing over, but it feels like this is a new level of things. We've had Black representation in different ways in entertainment and in cartoons as well. But to have it so specific, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing to see. This is historic, in my opinion.
Lionforge CEO Dave Stewart II says bringing Nigerian mythology to TV fills a major gap in global storytelling.
So often we get, other forms of, kind of cultural mythology, interwoven, whether it's, Norse, whether it's Roman or Greek, and really haven't seen stuff coming out of the continent.
With Iyanu, African mythology steps into the spotlight, bringing fresh energy to global animation and offering a new generation of viewers heroes that reflect their roots.
Well, that's all we have today in African News. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.